as long as people promise they did it, I'll have you all promise that you did it. And if you didn't, I'll just come around and cry and said, "You promised."
I promise.
That's a Heki promise. You can take that to the bank.
And speaking of taking it to the bank, we now are on episode 46 of the Halcyon Frequency podcast.
That was so awkward,
I am Arch. It wasn't awkward. I was just waiting for the right moment.
No, it was awkward. That was so awkward, man.
You were awkward.
A win.
Fine then. Speaking of awkward, we're at episode 46 of the Halcyon Frequency podcast. How about that?
I love it.
Perfect.
I am Arch. I am here with Suwey. How are you, Suwey?
Hi, I'm tired. I just woke up.
Oh, lovely. And we are also here with a bloody Drongo. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. I also woke up. I'm a little bit sleepy, but I've also made myself some breakfast, and it was very delicious, and I'm thrilled to be here.
You really sound it. I can hear that thrilledness in your bones. And we are also joined by the lovely and wonderful Heki. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I am great, thank you. I have not just woke up. I've been awake for a few hours at least, but I am eating dinner at midnight. So, yeah, that's going all right, I guess.
That's totally fine. It appears that everyone here is some level of, odd in their time zone. I think Drongo's the only one that lives in a normal time zone, like lives in his time zone, I should say.
I mean, that's pretty debatable. I'm definitely a night owl. I mean, I typically won't go to sleep until at least 2 or 3 a.m.
Well, that's early.
No, you just have a flipped sleep schedule, right? That's not being a night owl, Suey. That's just being a degenerate. But yes, we are 1 week after the Hot Potato Charity event ended this Monday, was it? Because
yes.
I'm asking correctly because obviously it was Tuesday for me, and I just wanted to double check. Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Because of time zones. Tuesday. What?
Tuesday.
What?
Tuesday.
What is going? Oh. Yeah. Oh, you're a menace. Absolute menace. You want to give us some recap on the hot potato, though, Suey? How much it raised and all of that?
So the hot potato raised, as of recording anyway, because people are still able to donate to it. You guys can feel free to. We will have the link in the description to this lovely podcast. But at the current moment, we are at $125,892.69, which also we are like very, very close to our all-time amount raised being $300,000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It really is.
I'm just trying not to think about it too hard.
Yeah, no, it was an absolutely insane event for both, the streamers and also the people on the back end. But Heki, you had an amazing session with the hot potato, and I don't think it was as chaotic for anyone else as it was for you.
I don't know what to say. I had nightmares and was hoping that it wouldn't go so bad, and it went worse than I ever could have imagined.
But that's the fun of it, right?
I had a good time, and I hope that's what matters.
So, for those of us who didn't manage to catch your slot live, what actually went wrong?
So, I guess it was quite early on. I was a couple of streamers in, maybe 8, I think, and I got handed a file with 6 colonists on it and a growing, slowly growing but steadily and goodly growing colony. I handed off the save file to the next person with 2 colonists left.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Not all of them died. Only one. I lost one colonist to death, but the rest were kidnapped. And I believe that some people made up for it and brought them back later on their turns.
Amazing.
Among others, the Seabull Battle Grandma, I know, got kidnapped on my run, and she did come back. So there was some good things to come out of it eventually. Not thanks to me, though.
No,
you
it
just
was a
added
lot of fun.
story. You just added story to the event.
Right.
And one thing I saw people talking about later on is actually 2 of the kidnapped colonists came back via quests. And anyone who plays RimWorld, even getting 1 kidnapped colonist return during a playthrough is like, oh wow, that's cool. Getting 2 back is, everyone was like, I don't think I've ever heard of this happening. So it was definitely an episode of drama, but you know, the fun kind of drama. It was absolutely great. And one thing I really loved about the potato is it really did go from lots of colonists to no colonists to lots to none to lots to none, and it really bounced around a lot. And it was a lot of fun to see. You know, tuning in and going, okay, who's still alive, and being like, oh, they're dead. Oh, they're dead. Like Battle Grandma, I forget where she died. But Steve.
Steve was alive in the end. He lived.
Yeah, Steve was an early colonist that saved a lot of the day, but he was also a pyromanic, so he occasionally went on fire starting sprees. And in my playthrough, even set fire to the mortar shells, which blew up, and he survived. So there was a lot of fun and a lot of drama in it. Drongo, how was your turn on it?
I mean, it was very drama filled. I mean, much the same as Heki. I got a save file with 5 colonists. Was it 5 or was it 4? I don't remember. And I handed it over with 2 colonists at the end. It was pretty challenging, but I do want to take at least some degree of credit for the fact that it was as challenging as it was, because I did put quite a bit of time into playtesting that scenario, and the whole premise of it, you know, being very super simple, of having, you know, just the sole goal of gathering as many potatoes as possible. The original version I had was a little bit more complex than that and had some different conditions in it, but the core idea of growing potatoes and having the yield as high as it was is deceptively difficult, because you're basically accumulating a massive amount of wealth, which makes the raids significantly harder for virtually no benefit to your colony from a defensive standpoint. So it was very amusing to me throughout the event hearing people comment on the fact that, I don't know why this is so hard. And it's like, well, you know, you've also got like at least 50,000 additional wealth that is just potatoes. So I was very pleased to see that it kept people on their toes and added some extra drama and spice to the event, and didn't let people kind of cruise on through without too much effort.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely hilarious watching the potato count go as well. Alan Gator actually created a list that tracked the amount of potatoes that were remaining through each one. And where was that list shared? Because here it is. So I think we peaked you know, early game. It was just, let's farm all the potatoes, and you know, peaked around 27,000 with the Allen Gator. And then it dropped down to, by the time Rocket Sox had finished with their playthrough, we were down to 4,000. So there was a definite drop in colony wealth there, and it was absolutely great seeing that go through. And you know, you almost see like the winter and then the growing months as well, which was funny. But like I thought at first, oh yeah, the potatoes will just grow, there'll be more and more potatoes, and that's what'll be going on. And seeing it go up and then down and up and down was kind of really interesting too. I think it was an absolutely great event. A great scenario. It was a great event, but also a great scenario, which is the word I was trying to use.
Though. I kept asking not Arch, Drongo. Oh gosh, are we gonna have another Kiri FG thing here? But anyway, I kept
No.
telling I kept asking Drongo to change it because I was just like, it was too complex, you know, like for an event like this, you want to keep it as simple as possible while still having some kind of layer of complexity, and it's a difficult balance because if you make it too hard, then the streamers are all going to be like overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. We did have quite a few streamers new to the idea of the hot potato as well. I think someone got the idea that we had new streamers to RimWorld, which wasn't really the case. You know, Heki claims that she'd only had one colony beforehand, but I'll just point out that that colony went to space, didn't it?
They did, yes. But I played on that one colony for a couple of 100 hours, so
Yeah. Only one colony, but played it for a couple of 100 hours and actually
I got
100% success rate of colonies, you know?
Mhm.
I don't think anyone here can say that.
No,
I
not even
I got
close.
lucky.
I still remember being so incredibly excited to see that Heki was playing RimWorld and tuning in, and I have to say that playthrough was everything I hoped it would be. It was just it had everything. It was magical.
Thank you. It was pure and utter chaos, but it was a lot of fun. I'm so happy I could take part this year and finally be in the event. I've been looking forward to it for so long, but I never managed to finish my colony that was just running for hours and hours. And finally, this summer, I got done with it and I could apply. So I'm so excited that I got to be part of it. Thank you for having me.
It was
I'm
an
kind of
absolute
sad.
pleasure to have you.
I'm sad that I didn't get to find out who Heki is until she applied for the event, to be honest. Like, I was going
I
through the
mean-
applications and I was just like, oh, this person's really cool. And I just didn't know about you or of you prior. And I'm so happy I got to meet you.
I'm very happy I got to meet you too and all the cool people that are involved in this. And I'm glad maybe that you didn't know about me beforehand, because if you think that I seemed cool from the application, I'm just gonna take that and say thanks. But also, that would not have happened if you had known me from beforehand.
See, this is what I really like about the hot potato, though. You know, there are so many streamers like that everyone finds because you know you might have one favorite streamer that takes part and then it gets passed. I saw members of my community in so many different ones, and these are people that I know came from me. I mean, one of them is a real life friend. And he was suddenly watching the hot potatoes, seeing all these things. It was absolutely great seeing him comment, and it's a great opportunity for, you know, like, oh yeah, you can talk about how other streamers get so much exposure and all that, but I more mean it's a great opportunity for community members to find other RimWorld players and lots of fun, because that's how I've found several of the RimWorld players. I think even Italics is I found him through the hot potato in 2020. So yeah, no, it's absolutely great, and it's a wonderful experience for everyone. It's a bit stressful when you're streaming. I mean, I don't remember much of my playthrough. kind of just blanked that one out. But yeah, no, it was absolutely good. And Suey, you even got to interview Tynan, didn't you?
Yeah, an hour into my turn, FG and I decided, we didn't decide, we got the opportunity to interview Tynan, which was really, really wonderful. If you guys missed that and you want to go back and watch it, you can just find it on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@Suwey. And it's one of my most recent posted videos. I'm probably gonna make it my channel, like when you go onto my channel, that's the first video you see thing. So
Yep.
if you guys want to see it, I'll go do that right now while everyone's talking.
Oh, yep. We can also put the link down below as well, because the interview with Tynan is something that I think appeals to a lot of people. Like, even if they're not following the hot potato itself, the game RimWorld has so much to offer and all of this. So the interview is always usually a highlight. Always usually, I say. Look at me use my big words. But it was a lot of fun. And I think everyone here did really well. And Heki, you raised such an awesome amount that it's absolutely unbelievable. For a first time hot potato, you raised, what was it? Nearly $7,500.
Oh yeah, 7272.72.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I cannot take the credit for that. It's all my community. They're amazing. And I think they were maybe a little bit charity starved. We usually do charities yearly, but we hadn't done one this year. So they were very excited. They're big also RimWorld fans as well. So it's all thanks to them.
You need to feed your community charities at least once every 6 months. Gosh, Heki,
Right.
don't you know this?
I know. I am sorry.
Heki's community is incredibly generous and sweet and kind. It's always a pleasure hanging out over there.
They're very, very caring. Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
That's
And I'm glad
really
we could
awesome.
take part in the hot potato now and bring all the good vibes over there as well into the event.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was and you yourself hung out in a lot of them. As I said, I saw a lot of people in different ones. You were someone that I saw in so many. You and I even entered a bidding war too, so
What?
which I won. I'll point out.
I saw this.
Wow,
I saw
kinda rude.
this.
Well,
Look,
yeah,
I'm just
I was
saying,
very
I'm just saying.
upset, and then and then I saw that the colony was actually named Heki. So thank you.
Yeah, I came in at the last moment and beat you, and then named the colonist Heki. Because, I mean, just because I wanted to win doesn't mean I'm not a good sport about it.
Right. I'll take that loss.
Well, we'll take a quick little break and then we'll jump into a recap in the week that was and some of the games we've been playing. We'll be back right after this break.
Hello, you are listening to the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. My name is Blind IRL. I'm not on this episode, but I've been streaming a lot of Dwarf Fortress over on twitch.tv/blindIRL. That is, once again, twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. You should come check it out sometime. Hang out. On with the show.
And we're back. Thank you for waiting. Drongo, you've been playing some fairly new games recently. What have you been up to?
I've been playing several new games actually at the moment. I've been playing some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, amongst other things. And that one has definitely been a bit of a contentious topic throughout the gaming community and Nintendo community and the Pokemon community, because it is just it has problems. It is it is a diamond in the rough, but very, very rough. I don't know exactly how much you guys have seen about it online.
Poppin'. The lag.
Yeah, my friends, Buddha downstairs has been playing it a lot. So I've actually been watching it a lot. It looks like a really good game that is really let down by everything. It's a great story, great mechanics, horrible performance, horrible bugs.
I don't know if I would go as far to say great story, because
it's
so
an
far I've found
interesting
the
story.
Yeah, it is interesting. It the story is okay from what I've experienced so far. It's not super directional. So one of the really big interesting things to note about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is that it's the first mainline game to really adopt a true open world philosophy in terms of game design. There's no kind of linear progression, whereas even with the previous games, the mainline games, they always had an element of free world roaming to them, but they were structured in such a way, they were gated in such a way that it was a very linear progression. So this is the first one where that doesn't really exist, and you can kind of go about in your leisure doing anything you want kind of in any given order. There are a few like fairly minor gating mechanics, but it's very open world, and I'm still not 100% sure if I feel like Pokemon benefits overall from it being a true open world game. But you're right, it is a game that is let down by its flaws, and besides that, it is still also a really incredible and really, really fun game. Like, the core gameplay is absolutely awesome. I adore it. I've been having a bunch of fun with it, and it's the way I've described it is it's kind of like that embarrassing relative that you get along with really well initially at family gatherings, and you're just like you kind of initially excited to see them, and then occasionally they just come out and say something outrageous, and it kind of is a bit embarrassing and reminds you of like, oh yeah, this is why we don't hang out more often. This is why we only see each other during family get-togethers. So it's definitely a flawed game, but an enjoyable one nonetheless.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching it. I've heard playing it can be frustrating. I mean, one of my friends finished the game, and even the credits had lag. Literally, text scrolling on the screen was lagging and jumping. So there are definite performance issues, and I do actually wonder if this will be a wake-up call to Nintendo, or to Game Freak, I should say, because they've coasted by on so much goodwill within the within it all, but it is slowly reaching that point of these this is performance that should have been reason for an absolute halt rather than what it currently is. So it's kind of interesting to see, and I have no intention of getting the game myself. There are a couple of copies floating around, so if I really feel the urge to play, I'll just borrow a friend's. But yeah.
I think the interesting thing is that I think that there will actually be some internal addressing of this problem, because Nintendo has now publicly addressed it and put out a statement regarding the performance issues, which is pretty unforeseen for Nintendo specifically, because it's not the first time Nintendo's done a pretty ordinary release of a game, and this is the first time I can think of that where they've actually acknowledged, hey, yeah, we did not do a good job on this. And Nintendo's like one of those companies that feels like it's so kind of insular in the way that it approaches its business practices that it very rarely takes on criticism or feedback from the actual player base and stuff. So it's hopefully a good sign that they've addressed it publicly and have, I guess, taken note of it, and hopefully they'll do something about it, and future game releases perhaps won't be quite as scuffed as this one has been.
Fingers crossed, at least, hey? Suwey, how's Project Zomboid been treating you?
Oh, I've been loving Project Zomboid. I'm currently running a community server for my community. So basically the only requirement for them is that they join my Discord server, and the server's only open when I'm live, and then sometimes a couple hours outside of it, so an hour before and an hour after type thing. But It's been a really good time. Everyone's been having a blast. We're making a little, so there's a big lake kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and we're making our own little place with it, so you can completely build buildings and stuff on your own in the game, and that's what we've been doing. And it's been such a fun, good time. We're building on top of the lake. We're doing a little floating village.
Oh,
and it's
nice.
So pretty. Yeah, I'm loving it. And so different people are doing different buildings too. So they all have different stylized elements to them, which makes the whole thing more cohesive, which I'm loving. And then so usually I'm the type of person who goes out and goes exploring, and that's all I do. But in this, I've literally spent the past 3 streams at base trying to get enough food cooked for everyone. Because it's just we need so much food all the time. And so I just spend forever just cooking and getting materials to cook with and stuff, you know?
That's an interesting approach regarding the server only being open when you're up, because I think most of us here, I don't know about you, Heki, we've had community servers for various things. Minecraft is one that usually comes to mind. And it does sort of, when it's up 24/7, you do wind up with a couple of really passionate people who have basically achieved everything. And when you log in after, I've played 3 hours, day later you log in again and someone's built this massive castle. Having it only open when you're playing means that the progression sort of flows with you, as opposed to outpacing you greatly. I think that's a really, really interesting idea.
Yeah, there was some kickback at first, but people have really liked it as they've continued because, one person can't go in and like grind out everything. You're kind
Yeah.
of forced at going at the same speed as me and everyone else, which is nice. And then like they work in sessions too. So, I don't know, it's just kind of nice. And I think people are getting burnt out on it a lot slower because it's in these sessions. They get to look forward to
Yep.
it. They get to play. And then they can't play again for another day or two. Which, it really helps with burnout, I think. And I don't think the server would be thriving as much if I had it open 24/7, During my streams, I'll notice like 8 people on the server, which is a lot.
Yeah. No, that's really cool, and I think it's really great to see. Project Zomboid's one of those games that I've always viewed from a distance, but there's always been a passionate community, and that's really awesome.
Speaking about the dead, Arch, you've been playing some Graveyard Keeper, which I love the game. I'm curious what you have to say
Yes.
about it.
I played it when it first came out. Was it in early access?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I don't remember either, but I remember when I played it when it first came out, and it lacked a lot of what it's currently got. I put about 50 hours into it, so I'd played through most of the main game. And I decided to come back for it for my YouTube series, and it's just been a hell of a lot of fun. I went and bought all the DLC. They've got such great ideas for the DLC name. Let me just have a look and get those names for you, because they're absolutely hilarious. They've got Stranger Sins, Game of Crone, Better Save Soul, and I thought they had another one, but I think that is one that is inherent within the actual in the game. It was a free update. But yeah, so they all have puns on basically or plays on what has currently come out, like Better Save Saul, Game of Thrones, Stranger Things. And so it's been quite fun, and the game itself is beautiful. It's like the top tier of pixel art. It's just an absolutely wonderful world, and lots of fun humor, like the communist donkey who, as soon as you inherit the church, decides he hates you and wants to be paid in carrots now. And I think there's a lot of fun opportunities with that. It's an older game, but it checks out. That's kind of it for me.
I agree. It's really good. I actually, while I was playing it for the first time, had the Tiny Build community manager like come into my chat, and like I'm now like one of the Tiny Build like affiliated streamers now, so I get Tiny Build keys for any game that I want, and it's
Humble brag
like,
there.
No, it's just like it was really, really cool because I didn't expect that at all. Like, it's an amazing publisher. And the game's just been so cool so far. I love how much they add. Like, I'm trying not to give spoilers too much,
Yeah, no spoilers. No spoilers. You will be shush on all spoilers.
Yeah, but I'll just say there's multiple ways for commerce to happen. And it's really cool the way they do it, which is really fun. It adds a lot of variety, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you for no spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, over to you, Heki. What have you been playing lately?
I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, actually, trying to finish the game.
I feel like the
Uh,
segue there is like, speaking of death even more,
yeah,
here's Elden Ring
Yeah,
with
right.
Heki.
Well,
right.
I don't know enough about Elden Ring to do that, but I think the memes that I do know, because it's a Souls-like, is just, yeah, you'll die 100 times per boss if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I think I ended the game with about 1,200 deaths, so
Wow.
I would say I did pretty good if you think that dying the most is the best.
I think
Well, that's the goal,
I-
isn't it? You got to get a high
Yeah,
score.
right. I think so too. That's
I
what I
feel
was
like-
going for.
I feel like I've heard that, like, I've never played a Souls-born game in my life, but I have watched quite a bit of Elden Ring now, thanks to Heki and a few other people. But I feel like, is it Melania, who's like the really hard, like,
Yes.
swords woman or swords thing? I feel like a lot of people have died to her, like, at least like several hundred or at least 1,000 times. So 1,200 deaths is actually pretty good, I think, right?
I did spend a good 3 days, 3 streams fighting her, but we got there in the end. Did not take more than 200 deaths, so that
Wow.
probably could have gone better, but I'm still happy. I don't claim to be a professional, so I'm not too fussed about that.
That actually reminds me, one of the major things that I know about Elden Ring is that guy Let Me Solo Her, who basically wears a pot in his head and is naked otherwise and fights her. Because you can call in basically anyone online to come and help you fight. And so this guy started doing it, and I think he killed her over 1,000 times. And the Bandai Namco actually sent him like this full-on, it's an actual sword, and it's a map scroll and plaque that's like congratulations and all of that. And it's absolutely insane that this one guy made his whole thing of I fight Melina or Melania or whatever her name is. And yeah, just got recognized by the developers for it, or the publishers for it as well. You know, it is absolutely awesome.
That's
Yeah,
so
I think it's
cool.
really cool. The
Yeah.
game is a big struggle, and I think a lot of people have gotten recognized because of that as well. People finding all kinds of ways to fight through the game. I have a friend who's also Swedish who has been fighting through Elden Ring with all kinds of challenges, doing it one-handed, doing it on a dance pad, and I just don't understand how people can do these things so well. Same with the guy that you talked about. I feel like I fought her once. I would never want to do that again.
I remember having this conversation with Tekid, who was a guest on the pod previously, and he was a big fan of Elden Ring, and I mentioned that would absolutely frustrate me to tears being unable, like having to repeat these things, and he's like, yeah, but it's something that you kind of learn is skill based. You know, you're never going to be beaten up by RNG, right? They telegraph their moves in advance. They do all of this, and he's like, that's why you see people being able to beat it with a dance pad with all of this, because it is designed to be able to identify what's coming, dodge it, and all of that. And he goes, it just takes practice, and it's one of those things that he was talking about the sense of achievement. He's like, it's one of those things that you can actually feel like you overcame the boss here because it was, you know, you sort of learn to read the patterns and such. And so I can appreciate that. It's still not for me. I'm not sure I'll ever actually play it. If I wanted to pay money to be made to cry, I'd probably find other ways. But yeah, no, it's
I do think it's the most friendly games out of the Souls games. I would say like a new player friendly, so to speak. It's still really, really hard, and definitely a struggle. Probably if you're not used to the games in particular, but also I feel like the open world element makes it a little. You have more ways to play the game. You can go different places. It's easy to be like, I am not prepared for this area yet, so I'm just gonna go to another area and try to fight my way around there, or explore, or just walk around and see what you can find. I feel like other Souls games have been more like pretty straightforward and quite linear in comparison. At least that's how I feel. I'm not qualified to call myself a proper Souls fan, I think, but I have played the previous titles, all of them, and I do feel like this is the one that it stands out in the way that you have more freedom, I think, with it being an open world game, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you
That makes
decide
sense.
to pick up a title from the struggle boss fight kinds of games, this might be the one.
I have been tempted. Like I've always found the idea of trying to get into the Soulsborne genre a little bit intimidating, but Elden Ring has probably been the closest I have been to actually being tempted to take that kind of suffering into my life and absorb myself into it.
I would love to see you stream it.
Heki.
Would it be less frustrating than getting over it?
I have played both.
Is too soon, Drongo?
Have you finished getting over it, Heki?
Yeah, I did it twice actually.
Oh my god. I've put like
The second
20
time
hours
was
into that
faster.
game and I still haven't finished it, and it is driving me up the wall.
For context, Drongo played it last night and rage quit.
Oh, all right. I missed that. I'm glad he didn't finish it then, so I can catch that. Is that happening
good.
next stream?
Thanks, Heki.
Yeah.
Good.
Stay tuned for your next challenge run. Just finish the bloody game.
Literally.
But speaking of other challenges, you've been also playing Darktide, haven't you, Drongo?
I have. I've been dipping my toes into Darktide. I was part of the pre-beta, and then the beta, and then the actual launch of the game, obviously, because then it becomes available to everybody. But I have been playing a decent amount of it, and I've been having a really great time with it. It is one of those games where I think it appeals to both fans of the 40k universe, or the Warhammer 40k universe, and people who aren't necessarily fans of it or know anything about the lore. And it does a really great job of unifying the aesthetic and the overall feel of the universe, that grim, dark universe. It has absolutely stunning environments that are just dripping with little details that will kind of, if you're into the lore and into the the environment and the world building, you're going to enjoy that and appreciate it for what it is. But if you know nothing about it, the gameplay in of itself is just really, really engaging and really, really fun. Probably the biggest criticism and downside of the game at this stage is that it is only playable through multiplayer lobbies for progression, which is a real shame. But hopefully it has been suggested that is something that is going to be coming down the line. So fingers crossed that'll happen. But for the time being, it is just a really fantastic, fun game. And if you've enjoyed games like Vermintide, or if you've enjoyed games like Left 4 Dead and things like that, small squad-based collaborative shooters where you can kind of get your mates together, have a really good time, shooting things and watching them exploding in gory pools of blood, then you're going to enjoy this. It's Darktide is awesome. They've nailed it as far as I'm concerned.
Isn't there a problem with Darktide though, where like RTX shading just doesn't turn off or something? Like real-time tracing or retracing or whatever?
They launched in the beta, and for some reason a lot of people didn't understand it was actually a beta, and there were a lot of complaints like, oh, this game's broken, it's buggy, and it's like, yeah, you're actually in the beta event. And
that makes sense.
Yeah, oh wow. I just got a follow on Twitch that just played through my headphones and absolutely creeped me out that I'd actually hit start streaming instead of start recording. Oh boy.
Gosh,
Nice.
ass.
But yeah, as I was saying, there were a few bugs in that, but that was part of the beta and part of the reason for the beta. So they went through all of that, and that should have been mostly sorted by now, Drongo. Is that right?
I wasn't aware of that particular issue. I've personally not encountered any bugs at all besides a relatively minor bug where when you load into like the main hub area, in between missions, sometimes you just won't get animated so yeah, you just won't get your body animated, so you just kind of glide around like you're on Heelys, which is kind of endearing, but not really
The Emperor
a
approves.
major issue. Yeah, the Emperor
Are those
approves.
are those Heelys Imperium edition?
They are, yes. Yeah, so I'm sure, no doubt there has definitely been bugs, and there probably still is bugs in the game, but I think from the most part, most people are enjoying the game, and yeah, I think it's been a pretty positive launch, I think, for the most part. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. Speaking of very positive launches, I'm trying to get better at segues, right? You know, Slime Rancher 2, Suwey.
Yeah.
How's that thing? I
I've been
think there's been
recording
a
it
lot
for
of
YouTube.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's been a lot of positivity around it. A lot of people are like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like Slime Rancher 1, but better. You know,
I'm okay. I haven't actually played Slime Rancher 1.
what?
And like I'm sure a lot of references to Slime Rancher 1 in the game, but I'd never played it. So yeah, but I've been recording it for YouTube, and it's been a really good time. Like I put in like I think an hour and a half or 2 hours into the game last night, and
Yeah.
there is like the world is really big, and it's taking me a really long time to explore it. I just wish that there was more like teleportation stuff. I mean, maybe I just haven't unlocked it yet, but yeah, no, it's been a really good time. I finally figured out how to open like the gates that, or like the doors that have like a plort on them. I finally solved that puzzle last night, and I was so proud of myself.
No, it is a wonderful game, and it I've played through Slime Rancher 1. I've actually had a few issues trying to get Slime Rancher 2 to play, so you know, I'm still working on that, and hopefully we'll solve that. But it is, from what I've seen, it is just a lot of the same charm and the same sort of mechanics that made Slime Rancher 1 so enjoyable. They're back. Graphics are updated. There are quality of life changes, and it does look like an absolutely just fun game. It launched in early access, so there is more coming, and I have debated waiting for that as well. Because I have a contentious love-hate relationship with early access games. If I find an early access game that I love, I will absolutely play it until I'm burnt out on it. And then when they add like more content or finisher, I'm just not interested because I've already burned myself out on it. But yeah, no, it's got all of the adorableness of Slime Rancher 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see that you've been enjoying it. And the references are, I think it's continuing the same person's story. It's literally like they've gone to a new area. So that's also pretty cool. And that's probably why you'll see a lot of the references.
Yeah, so they reference the first game a lot. And then like I think some of the friends that you have are from the first game, it feels like. Just because
Is
like
there
the second
Bob?
game doesn't explain them. Yeah.
Is that Bob, who is actually 3 slimes in a trench coat that craves chicken?
What?
Yeah.
I think there's a dude named Bob.
Okay, so you used to get orders in from, you know, it's basically you would get a daily quest, and one of the NPCs was Bob, and it was like chicken, 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 and he only spoke in the word chicken. You basically had, or whatever the chickens are called, you had to go get them. But you know, if you look at the actual image of them,
I think I met him. Wait, hold on. I think hold on. Let me use Google really fast because I think I met him last night in the game.
This
'cause
was
there was
supposed to just be a throwaway line, and now I've
yeah,
had to explain
yeah.
it all,
I
and
met
you're
him last
Googling it?
night. I met him last night
Yes.
in the game, and he was like kind of weird, and then suddenly just goes chicken at the very end of what he says, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, no, that's Bob. He's like that.
Yeah, no. So, but it's kind of funny because I don't know how the first game plays or anything. Like, I never played it. So, it's kind of just been interesting to play it because I'm just here like, there's probably so many references I don't get. And there's probably certain things that just aren't explained because people expect that I played Slime Rancher 1. And I'm just like, so, how do I keep X kind of slime alive? Because, like, for example, there's what's called a fire slime, and they eat ash only, and I haven't figured out how to keep them alive yet.
Wait,
They
they actually die?
disappear. They just disappear. I put them in a pen and then they disappear. So maybe like, I mean, I haven't constructed an incinerator yet, so maybe there's like a thing with the incinerator that they'll just like sit at it or something. Cause like, I found puddle slime last night, and I put them in a little like pond that you can make, and they seem to be living just fine. So maybe it's something similar for the fire slime. I don't know. It's just like there's so many puzzles in the game, so many little things that they don't really fully explain, and it's a puzzle.
Yeah, no, I remember Slime Rancher, like, you fed them in order to get ports, but they didn't actually die otherwise. So, I accidentally forgot to, after a stream, I forgot to pause the game, and I went to bed. I forgot to close the game, and I just left it running. I came back in the morning to find everything sitting around still, and we're up to, like, instead of day 30, we're up to day 300. Because it had just run for so long. I was like, oh, yeah.
They
no,
all
that's not
angry
good.
and like out of their pens and stuff though.
Yeah, when they get hungry, they get out of their pens and that. Just like children,
Are you doing Largos or are you doing normal slimes?
That was Slime Rancher 1. I don't even remember back then.
Oh, okay.
But one thing I have been playing recently, and I want to jump onto this one because I really, really have been enjoying this one. This has been an offline one for my own enjoyment, which is, I feel that we don't always get to play games offline for our own enjoyment.
Dude, I've made a no guilt game list on my Steam of games that I feel like I never am gonna actually get around to covering anyway, so I might as well enjoy it for myself because I wasn't given a review key for it, and there's no reason I should feel guilty playing it. And it's been so much fun to be able to just sit down and play a game on my own without having to like be on and in recording or streaming mode.
Yeah, exactly. No guilt game list. I like the name of that because my current no guilt list or no guilt game is Zero Sievert, which is a pixel art based extraction shooter. So it's basically Tarkov, but with pixel art.
Oh, I've watched Danatage play this. I'm familiar with this game.
Yeah. I think Part-Time Triggered played it earlier, like last week as well. Blind got me into it. He was the one that was playing and was like, Arch, you have to get this. And it's so much fun. It's incredibly frustrating. And it's like I imagined the other games to be like as well, The idea of you basically lose all progress unless you actually get out alive and all of that. But it's been incredibly fun, because it's punishing when you're out there, but it's forgiving when you die. So by that, what I mean is when you're out there, you can run into something and just be shot and die, right? But when you die, it actually just reloads to when you were about to go. Some things change, like time changes. I think some of your gear takes damage, but you've got all the same, you don't lose your healing stuff, right? If you're out there and you use your top tier healing and you still die, you'll have it back when you respawn, as opposed to, oh no, you lost it. You don't lose your whole inventory. All things like that I think are really good because they mean that while you're out, you've got to survive, you've got to complete tasks, you got to collect things, and there's that challenge. But if you die, you just go back to where you were when you started, rather than actually further backwards, because you used ammo, you used food and water and all of that. So it's been a lot of fun, and I got a really nice sniper rifle, so I feel super badass sneaking around and shooting bandits in the head. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, no, it's been something that I actually quite really enjoy playing offline. I will play it a couple of rounds and then be like, all right, I'm done. And then half an hour later, I'll find myself loading it back up after a break, which is usually how I consume games nowadays.
I on my no gil, I played. I'm currently playing through Not Tonight, which is like a Papers, Please-esque game from 2018. That's like a commentary on Brexit, and is like in a dystopian British world where Brexit ruined everything, and it's hilarious.
Wait. A dystopian, an alternate world where Brexit ruined everything, or just the current world?
It's alternate because, like in the world, people are being kicked out of the country because, and they're like anti-Europeans and all this stuff. So it's just like if things actually went like 180 and was just absolutely horrible.
It sounds like what Brexit was and is.
I don't know. It's funny though. It's funny. I've been enjoying it.
Okay. That's the alternate bit then. It's all happening bad, but it's kind of amusing, as opposed to it's all happening bad and that's how it is.
Yeah, no, it's funny. But you play as a bouncer and you have to like check everyone's IDs and make sure that they can actually go into the clubs, and then like that they have a ticket, that sort of stuff. And so it's basically Papers, Please, but it's been a good time.
No, that's awesome to see and awesome to hear. I think I heard about that. It's an older game, isn't it?
It's from 2018. I also played The Final
Yeah.
Station, which was really fun too. But that was like a zombie-esque game where you're taking a
Right.
train. But yeah.
Yeah, still within the zombie thing. Heki, is there any other game that you've been playing apart from Elden Ring that you'd like to talk about? Or is that it?
Well, my Elden Ring playthrough lasted for several months, so I've been quite busy with it. But I did play a bunch of RimWorld, obviously leading up to the Hot Potato, trying to practice a little bit. And the DLC for Resident Evil 8 came out about a month ago, so I checked that out as well. It's been good fun. I like that there has been more updates to Resident Evil, to the series. They're coming out with a remake now of the 4th Resident Evil this spring, I think. And that's been something that I guess I'm waiting for also. Excited to see new titles.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because Resident Evil has always been something that I've kind of watched, and like the games. I mean, I watched the movies
my
as well
gosh,
because they're just so fun.
Oh, I don't remember. I watched the first movie. It was a time. I watched it recently. Sorry.
The thing that always confuses me is how the plot goes, because Resident Evil 1 insinuates, or the first few insinuates, that it's like this outbreak from Umbrella Corp, but then all of the others jump location and time periods as well, don't they? So it suddenly becomes like this whole different thing.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that either. There's probably others that know better about this. I've just been enjoying the games. They have been a bit confusing when it comes to like if they have the shared lore of Umbrella, as you say, and even the newer ones seem to have that too. But it does feel very different. The newer Resident Evil 8 and Village, it feels very different than the early titles, definitely. I don't know if that's intentional, that they changed direction, or if it's just kind of parallel bad stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like, so I watched the Resident Evil series that I think was on Netflix.
Oh,
And
yeah,
that
I
was
saw
like
that
way
too.
in the future. That was like set way in the future of the game series, from what I could tell.
I'm not sure if they were trying to base it on the like game lore. That felt it was very dystopian, but also had a lot of uh, I'm not sure. I think it got cancelled, right? It was one season and then it got cancelled.
I don't know if it got canceled. Let me look it up really quick.
Yeah. But it that felt very different. I don't know. It had the same theme of also, I guess, the virus and the um, just shady stuff going on. But it
It's
got cancelled.
canceled.
Yeah.
It's mm-hmm.
So I guess the confusion will stay.
Yeah.
No answers to be found.
I mean, it
But
did
I've been
feel like an
enjoying the
ending.
titles.
It
Yeah.
did feel like an ending, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess
okay.
it's also taking it in another direction. I feel like there is a big umbrella of different Resident Evil takes that have been made. Or everything might be just flying over my head. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if I'm missing out on a deeper plot, maybe. But
I don't know.
it feels like there's a lot of separate storylines.
There
I'm not well
definitely
versed on.
is.
I'm not well versed on Resident Evil, but even I got that reference there. Well done, Heki.
Thank you. I try.
I played Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, like the remakes. And then I've watched the movie and I've watched the series. So I only really know like early Resident Evil lore.
Do you feel like they've tied them together well?
Kinda. I mean, it works in a way. In a
Yeah.
way. It's not perfect, but it's just a fun little thing, and you know, I can work with it in my head as being a fun thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna take a quick little break, and then what do you say we sit down and talk about some of the news of the I was gonna say the world, and I'm like, if we say that and then come out with D&D Lego, I don't think that we're really carrying the same impact that news of the world suggests. But yes, how about we take a break and we come talk about some Lego.
Hi, this is Tidikiri. I'm a full-time content creator and Twitch streamer focusing on indie and strategy games. I'm advocating accessibility in video games, especially when it comes to simulation sickness. I love chatting with my wholesome community, achievement hunting, and winter. Look for Tidikiri on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. And now, back to the podcast.
We are back with episode 46 of the Halcyon podcast. Jumping into some news, and first of all, some lighthearted things. A user or a couple of users have gone ahead and built a D&D Lego set for a competition. I'm just reading here now because originally I thought it was just going through the Lego ideas, but I actually read another bit in the article. So to celebrate the 50th anniversary of D&D, the teams at Lego Ideas and Wizards, so Wizards has actually been introduced with this. I did read that wrong earlier. They kicked off the contest using the Lego Ideas system. And what the Lego Ideas system is basically, it's a website where people submit their builds and their ideas for things. It gets votes. And I think once it hits, I think it's 10,000 votes within a certain period. Lego then reviews and comments on it saying, yeah, no, that's a good idea. We'll build that, or no. Quite often you get a lot of people trying to put in, tie-ins to other things, and Lego has to basically say no, because I mean, intellectual property and copyright stuff, but there's been quite a lot of cool things that have come through with it. And yeah, so they've tied or connected with Wizards of the Coast to ask people for Dungeons and Dragons. I think I just said Dungeons of the Dragons.
Yeah, okay, boomer.
I literally spent
these here fandangled kids in their dungeons with the dragons and the hinging and the hunging.
I play 7 hours of D&D a week, and I still managed to call that Dungeons of the Dragons.
Yeah, kind of cringe, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm absolutely telling everyone about this. So there's some really cool ideas here that really take things out of inspired by it. Drongo, what do you think about it? You're a bit of a D&D nerd, aren't you? Or at least D&D literate, I'd say.
I think it's fair to say that I am D&D literate, at least from a roleplay perspective. Maybe not so much from a game mechanics perspective. I'm not much for ones for rules and stuff like that. I definitely lean more heavily towards the RP side of things. But
wow, you're not one for rules, okay? Rebel.
Yeah, in general, yeah. Surprise, shocker for everybody, I'm sure. I think it's really cool. I loved Lego growing up, and I love D&D now. So for me, that's kind of a really cool potential collaboration. It would be really awesome if they did actually manage to make something like that official. I just think it's really cool as well that, you know, thanks to shows like Stranger Things and things like that have managed to capture the mainstream eye a little bit more, that D&D in particular has gotten a lot of additional traction and a lot of additional interest, and brought a new wave of people into the hobby. And I know some people that have been in the hobby for a long time like to maybe like mumble and grumble and almost adapt that like hipster mentality of, oh yeah, well, I was doing this before, it's cool kind of thing. But I think it's just a really awesome thing, because, you know, D&D is just such an amazing way of kind of bringing people together and just doing a collaborative storytelling, and, you know, just using your imagination and spending time with friends. And I'm all for anything that kind of gets more people involved in doing cool things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually liken, you know, there are two fandoms which you may not consider to be closely aligned, but I actually connect them a lot, is D&D and RimWorld. Everyone wants to tell you about their characters. Everyone wants to tell you about their setting, and it's always, you know, they want to tell you about what's going on in their game, whether it's D&D and their characters and what's going on, or their colony in RimWorld. And I kind of realized that and embraced that, because yeah, it is group storytelling at its core. There's mechanics to how to do things, but it's a bunch of people sitting around and having a group hallucination. No, it is a lot of fun. Are you familiar at all with D&D, Suwey or Heki?
I am. I played it a bit in high school, but my group was just too slow, and I was too impatient, and I would zone out.
Right. Okay. Typical. How about you, Heki? Are you learned in the D&D universe?
I am very much not. No, everything I know about D&D is what I've seen in Stranger Things. So I guess I'm one of them who have gotten introduced to it through the series.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand the appeal of it. It seems great. If I were to get to try it out, so to speak, I think I would be also very interested in continuing and doing.
My problem with the world is I do not care for medieval stuff, and 99% of D&D stuff is medieval. I know there is other tabletop games. D&D doesn't have to be medieval, so on and so forth. But in practicality, good luck finding something that's not medieval setting. And all I want is, I want a tabletop role-playing game where I'm in like some kind of like not medieval, but some sort of like fantasy world. And I'm just, going through like social situations in a story more than, going through combat. Because, oh my gosh, my group took so long. It took like 15-20 minutes to get around the table per round of combat. Imagine how long it took to do the most simple, basic.
15 minutes?
Uh-huh.
That's quick.
It took at least 15. Sometimes it'd be 30.
Yeah, no, that's pretty standard for, there's a lot of dice rolling. There's not normally many rounds of combat. If you're going more than 5 or 6 rounds of combat, then yeah, it's going to start adding up, but that's usually reserved for boss battles. Usually things are wrapped up pretty quickly, and yeah, it does depend. Every board game is different. Some people prefer the RP, the setting changes, and all of that. That's what I like about D&D, though. It's a series of instructions, nothing more. You absolutely can have futuristic stuff. I mean, one of our games, we decided that we wanted to own the moon. We went to space. We went to Chicago.
Of course, the two things that I would do in a sci-fi setting: go to the moon and go to Chicago. Of course, yeah, the two natural things.
It of course is based off the Spelljammer stuff, and then I think what are they called? I think it was the Edge Runners. The cyberpunk setting Edge Runner that we borrowed stuff from. And so there's a lot that interconnects, and it's a lot based on, how everyone works together and what they can all bring to the table. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that. And it's the same with Lego. I absolutely love Lego. I'm looking at these pieces now. The pieces that are currently suggested in the article we'll share. There's a Mimic, a Dice Tower, like a Dragon's Keep, the Monster Manual, so like an actual book with a bunch of monsters, and then there's Xanathar the Beholder, who is a character from Waterdeep and is head of the Thieves Guild there. I know that because I'm not allowed in Waterdeep because I upset him in my game. So yeah, no, there's lots of varied ideas, and it's absolutely great to see the Lego team work with Wizards of the Coast to do that. So
quickly before we move on, I just want to say, because Heki said, oh, Drongo, I would love to see you play Elden Ring. Heki, I would love to see you play D&D. I think that would be an absolute time. I would be so down for that.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun to see.
It would be a mess, but hopefully fun. If I come to Australia, we can play some.
Oh my god, you promise?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh no.
Perfect.
Booking flights now.
Right.
I mean, you've even got your old wizard set up there with Grandpappy Drongo.
It's true, yeah, I do.
Just don't hunch over so much, and boom, you're a wizard or a druid, whichever you want to be more.
Thanks.
Speaking about what you want to be when you grow up.
Oh.
Yeah, no, what you want to be when you grow up. Shush.
Combat.
No. The US Army, internal Army documents obtained by Motherboard provide insight on how the US Army wanted to reach Gen Z, women, and Black and Hispanic people through Twitch, Paramount, and the WWE. We did actually notice this quite some time ago when the US Army Esports actually started their own Discord server, and they started their own Twitch channel trying to run that. And it was pretty obvious that they were doing something there, and these documents basically do nothing but reinforce what everyone already knew. Drongo, what do you think about this?
I mean, it to me, it's absolutely no surprise. I mean, the US Army and military branches overall have got a a pretty long and storied history of trying to use or leverage popular media, whether it be movies or whether it be music videos and things like that, to increase their brand presence, which is the way they kind of treat it in a lot of respects when they come to advertising, is they build a brand of what being part of the armed forces is. And it's so they'll have they have an entire section where they have just military equipment that they let people have for music videos or movies and things like that for massively discounted prices, which a lot of them use because that way you can get a tank, you can get a bunch of Humvees or something like that for your your music video or something like that, and it's increases the production quality. So it's no surprise to me at all that they look at these really out of the box ways that to try and worm their way into the public eye and the try and increase that brand presence. And I don't know what anybody else expected, to be honest. It does not shock me at all.
No, it doesn't shock me either. I mean, Simpsons made fun of it 10 plus years ago with Eva Netniage. The idea that the Navy was funding this boy band because they wanted more youth in. And that's kind of I look at that and go, well, we already knew all this. What's the big deal? But it does go to show. Sorry, yep.
American here. I don't like my tax money being used on advertisement for the Army. To be honest, I'm kind of one of the few political takes I am willing to explain is I understand that we need it, but I still do not like us having an army or having a bunch of military. I'm very pacifist. So
Suwey,
yeah.
The U.S. Army has a budget of about $1.5 trillion.
Yeah, no, it's way too much.
It's stupidly high. It's bigger than the next top 10. I absolutely, I don't like saying the tax money being spent on the advertising or the army and such. The US Army is absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think anyone bar the US Army thinks that it should be that high. But that aside, it's the inherent slimy nature feel of the army is looking at how can we connect these people to give them guns and send them off to war and die.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And that's what I don't like. There are people who find a calling in the army. There are people who find purpose in that. My brother was in the army for a while because he found that calling. He wanted to do that. But the idea of trying to slide in and grab these people watching Twitch streamers and being like, oh wow, the army's sponsoring Call of Duty and I'm seeing all this cool stuff and I'd love to do that. I think that's where it gets me. Australia does a fair amount of advertising for the army as well, or the defense forces, you might know as well, Drongo, but a lot of it's built around the fact that you can learn trades, that you can be more than just a soldier. And I think that, again, while still a little bit, would rather not have to have it at all, that's a lot better than trying to use people well, if you like Call of Duty, you'll like the real thing. There's no lag. It kind of gets a little bit ridiculous on that. Most of these plans were scrapped, which is very good to hear. But the original plans involved spending several $1 million on Twitch and addressing the HBCU, historically black colleges and universities showdown. So yeah, they were looking at sponsoring Twitch to run Call of Duty things. So I'm glad this didn't happen. I think that that's quite insidious. I think that the army should not be using the same marketing tactics as, say, a G Fuel or Gamer Subs company that just wants to target the Gen Z and sell them a little product. Selling military service and risking your life should not be considered on the same in the same breath at the same mark.
Yeah,
But
no,
America already has an issue with recruitment.
Yeah, no, when I was like 18ish, I actually did get like a lot of exposure to that stuff. Like we had a recruiter come to our school for the military and was like, "Anybody want to join?" And I went to an art school, and so like 2/3 of us were girls, and we were all just there like, "No, we're good." Like
Yeah.
none of us have that macho like want to go fight sort of mentality. And then when I did like a trade conference thingy is the best way to say it in high school, I went to a conference for like professional workforce type stuff, and they had a huge military presence there. I think it was the Army specifically. I remember like a few years back, every other ad on Twitch was for the Army. Like, it's everywhere in the US.
That would have been part of what these documents refer to, I believe.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
That was the period in which they're referring to. Basically, these documents have been released afterwards or been obtained afterwards. But yeah, no, there was a definite attempt to be like, hey, how can we leverage Twitch in the current gaming spheres? And I remember them copping a lot of harassment for that. I don't know if they're still on Twitch or if they still do that. But yeah, people who choose to do military service, that's perfectly fine in my opinion. It's the people that are targeted and manipulated with typical advertising techniques, or also, the idea of, oh, if you're in the army, you'll get you get to go to university for free afterwards. Because I had a friend in the US who did that. He spent 2 tours in Iraq because he got free university afterwards, and he couldn't afford it any other way. To me, that's where it's leaves a very icky feeling on me.
I met a lot of people when I was going to college that were only there because they had gone through their service, and then were there for free. A few of them missing a limb or something too. And it was common, and there was tons and tons, but especially when I was at the community college, there was so much stuff just all over the place about joining the military.
And I think that's where it gets a little bit too insidious, don't you all think?
And like a lot of it was like, oh, well, this college that's really expensive, it'll be free if you join us. And that's very much how it was marketed when I was going to college.
And that's kind of what they rely on from my experience as an outsider looking in as well.
It's an interesting cultural divide, I think, between the US and their military culture, and honestly, like in my experience, just about anywhere else in the world. Because I mean, even in countries where I would say it's a great luxury and a great privilege to not have to rely on your military for your day-to-day protection and safety.
Yeah.
And I've been to countries where that is the reality of, some people's existence, where it is very much the case that you rely on these people to provide some degree of protection and, safety for your country and your people. But even there, it's still a very different kind of relationship and a very different culture to the US, which is very unique in kind of the way that they almost commercialize the existence of the military in a lot of ways. And it's, I don't really personally know enough about it to have any strong feelings negatively or positively about it. I just think it's a really interesting observation. And ultimately it's not really my place to pass judgment as well, to a certain extent, I feel, because I'm not an American and I'm not directly affected by it positively or negatively. But yeah.
Like, as an outsider, there are things that are aspects that, like, they do in America that they don't do here. Like, thank you for your service. That is something that I like, because where we are here, we're near a NZ military base, and you see someone in camouflage, and you're just like, I can't see you. You look like a tree. Whereas in the US, there is that thank you for your service, and there's all that recognition and stuff. So it is really interesting to see. I have nothing against, you know, people who do go that route. I just
Yeah,
hope
same
that
here.
the people who do so out of the desire to serve their country, as opposed to, you know, I have no other options, or I have been led down this path through marketing and advertising, as opposed to anything.
I agree. Like, there was one kid, I think, in my high school that actually went for military, and they were very passionate about it. They really wanted to, you know, serve the country. And at that point, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I think they were from a military family. And, you know, like, I have no judgment. It's when the military persuades people, it can feel a little slimy if it's
Yeah.
for the wrong reasons, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think people go for it because they hear all these benefits without really thinking about the fact that, like, it's a really, really dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like becoming a you know, retail clerk or anything. I mean, there's still a lot of flack there, but different kinds. Before we do finish up, I've just been scrolling through this news article about the Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. The really classic and popular Heroes of Might and Magic game, well, the third one, is on Kickstarter and has 6,000% of budget, which is 60 times higher than their amount that they've been looking for. And oh my god, the miniatures in it look amazing.
I was gonna say that's the thing that really stood out to me when I looked at that news post was the little pieces for that set look gorgeous. They look beautiful. I'm a sucker for beautiful tabletop game pieces, and those look so good, so incredible.
Yeah. Like, I'm looking through all of this, and I saw that and I thought, oh yeah, Heroes of Might and Magic 3 board game, cool. I clicked on the Kickstarter and I started scrolling down through the miniatures available, and there are mounted knights, there are angels, like on foot knights, like all of this. And, like, you know, as a prolific D&D player, I'm looking at all of this going, like, there's even examples for, like, a beholder, examples for young dragons, for zombie dragons, for skeleton warriors, for liches.
Jeez.
And it's such a beautiful system. I don't think I'll do it because, I mean, probably a little bit too expensive for me.
Since this article was written, they've raised an additional £1.6 million. That is remarkable.
It's also finished. Bugger, so that's why I won't be backing it as well. They raised a total of 3.8 million euros for this. The goal was 50,000, and they raised 3.8 million. So almost 27,000 backers. They reckon delivery will be end of December 2023, but with that many backers, I expect that to be delayed greatly. Like, because that's one of the things with Kickstarters that I've noticed, that's like, okay, so there is expected deliveries and all of this, but when something goes huge and there's so much more demand, they're like, oh, this is going to take way longer.
Yeah,
but,
100%. I mean, that's the thing that people don't really
Yeah.
understand about that sort of production, is the amount of logistics that go into it is extreme when you're talking at like a production level, and then having to increase from a perspective, you know, well, let's conservatively try to make like 1,000 units of this board game, to let's make 26,000 versions of this board game or copies of this board game. That's significant.
Yeah, but it's great to see, you know, Heroes of Might of Magic is absolutely an old school gem. And, you know, it's great to see things like this where people are really behind the idea of these things, and yeah, there's clearly a lot of demand for it.
100%.
But yeah, and I think that's where we'll wrap things up for today, because I'm out of news stories. So I want to just say, first of all, thank you so much, Heki, for joining us today.
Yes.
It's always a delight to have guests on, and you've been absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you've been a little bit quiet in the corner, but you know, I appreciate you being here. And again, thank you so much for your work on the potato. An absolutely blast of a time, and you know, certainly set the bar high for amount raised and the kind of chaos to expect on the rims. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. Not only guesting tonight, but also in the hot potato, of course. Shout out to the community. Of course, I couldn't have done it without them. But
Absolutely.
This has been super interesting as well. I've been loving listening to you talk now tonight, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for being here, Heki.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Where can people find you online on Twitch and Twitter and such?
They search for Hekimae and I should be popping up. My name is the same on every platform that I am at. So TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, wherever.
All right, so that's Hekimae, Hekimae. If you're not reading the description, in which it'll be down below. So yeah. My name is Arch Plays Stuff, and you can find me on all platforms as Arch Plays Stuff. Suwey, where can you be found?
Yeah, I'm Suwey. It's spelled Suwey. So you can find me on Twitch at Suwey. On YouTube, my main channel is youtube.com/@Suwey. And then I have @Suwey streams for all the rest of the platforms. So that's Twitter. I have another YouTube channel that's VODs that the ad is Suwey streams, TikTok, etc.
All right. And Bloody Drongo, where can people find you?
They
and
can
why would they be looking for you?
I don't know. If the Australian Federal Police are listening to me, good luck. But for everybody else, you can find me on Twitch as Bloody Drongo, all one word. Or if you're looking for me on Twitter, you can find me as @TheBloodyDrongo.
It's all right, mate. RimWorld is now legal in Australia. You're no longer being hunted.
It's good news.
And don't forget, if you can, to leave a review for the Halcyon Frequency podcast, wherever you're listening. They mean a lot to us, and also a lot to the algorithm. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next episode. Bye for now.
Arch, did you tell people where they could find you?